may be one of my favorite stories to tell. It happened when I went to a club with Victor and my other good friend John. And it was the first time we had been to this club. We showed up at 10 o'clock. I wanted to get there early so we could mingle with the bouncers and the dancers and the owner and people like that, because in the future you can get into clubs and places for free if you're friendly and you're friends with the bouncers and all those people. So I wanted to get there and mingle a little early. And within the first 15 minutes, I got kicked out of the club because what happened was I was in there 10 minutes, no one's there because it's so early, and people usually show up around 11:30 or later. So because it's so early, they had the top and the bottom floor closed off until later and more people show up, and that's when they open the doors to the top and bottom floor. And I noticed that there were these water coolers with beer bottles filled up in them, but there's no bartender or a cashier over there to be selling them. So in my head, I don't drink. And so in my head, I thought, are these just here as props to like look cool and make people want to go buy a drink? And so I approach it and get closer, and there's a plastic casing over it, and it's locked. So I was like, oh, okay, they must be real then. I don't know why no one's selling them though. And I look a little closer, and I noticed the plastic was cracked on both things, so anyone could just lift it up and steal whatever they wanted out of it. And in my head, I was just like, are these here for people to just take? This doesn't make any sense. They must be props to look cool. So I open it up and I take the bottle out, and I look, it was some off-brand beer bottle that I didn't recognize, and so I was like, okay, maybe they are props. And then I looked closer and I could see through the dark bottle that there was liquid inside of it. I was like, oh, okay, it is real. And just as I'm putting it back, and you're gone. You get grabbed and ripped out of the club. And if you've never been kicked out of an establishment or a club or whatever, once you're kicked out, you're done. There's no getting back in. Like, you can repay, but you'll get kicked out again. They won't even let you. And so I tried to explain my story to the white guy who kicked me out. And pardon me for being blunt on their skin color, but this was Pontiac. And so white guy kicks me out, and he's not even giving me a chance to explain my side of the story. I was like, oh, no, I don't drink. I swear, let me just tell you what's happening. He kicks me out, and he goes back inside, and he kind of tells his co-bouncers that I tried to steal a beer, and that's why I got kicked out. And so there's like 3 black guys that I'm trying to explain to, and there's this one really big, burly, Notorious B.I.G. Guy. And he just has a stone-cold face, and he's not budging. And I try to explain the story. I was like, I don't drink. I explained everything to him that I just explained to you. And he was like, no, man, you try to steal beer, that's not cool, you're not coming back in. I was just like, well, what if I paid again and got back in? Because we just got there, and I didn't want Victor and John's night to be ruined because of me within the first 15 minutes. So I said, what if I paid the cover again? And he said, well, they'd probably beat you and they'd kick you out again. And so that's when I pull out the invisible deck. And it was in its casing. I was just, okay, how about this? Let me just try something. I was just like, I want you to just think of a card. It doesn't even matter. Just think of one card. Not the Ace of Spades, though. It's too common. And I ran the invisible deck trick, and he wasn't budging, but his other 2 black buddies got a little curious, like, okay, what's going on here? So one of his co-bouncers said, all right, 5 of spades. And that's what I said. I turned one card in this deck upside down. And so I took it out. He was holding it, pulled it out slowly, spread through, and it was perfect because right in the middle of the deck was his was a face down card. And sure enough, I was like, if this is the 5 of spades, then you'll let me back in. Because chances are it's not. If it's not, fine, no big deal. I'll leave peacefully, no questions asked. But if it is the 5 of spades, what, 1 in 52 chances? Then you should let me back into the club. I think that's fair. And they were skeptical of it. I don't know, man. And they tried to reach for it. And I pulled it back. And I was like, no, this is very fair. If this is the 5 of spades, you thought of it. It's upside down. I turned it over before we even met. If this is the 5 of spades, you'll let me back in. So now this is starting to garner attention from people waiting in line and people like on their cigarette breaks outside and just the other bouncers in general. And so he turns it over, and sure enough, it's the 5 of spades. And that doesn't have to do with a 5-speed or anything. So the face-down card turns it over, and the guy who picked the card is freaking out, and his buddy's freaking out, and the stone-cold black guy, who's tough from the beginning, is just like, no, dude, you ain't seen shit like this before, man. You ain't seen shit like that. I see this all the time. This guy's a hustler. He's a magician. He's a con artist. And so then I did a few more tricks, and I ended with 2-card money. I think I did only 3 or 4 more tricks. I ended with 2-card money, and that had them freaking out. They talked to their manager, tell them my side of the story, let me back in, scot-free, no extra cover. And then that was a perfect story that I've been able to tell everyone going to clubs. Before they ask what I do, I'll be like, oh, you see this club over here? Yeah, I got kicked out one time because of this, that, blah, 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 blah. And then I did this, and then I got back in. And so I don't even have to do the trick yet. I can tell the story about it. And then after this 15-minute story or whatever, pull out the invisible deck, do the same trick to them, get people loving you. Be a good storyteller. Have good stories like this to tell. Which reminds me, I have been to clubs, I've been to bars and other places and stuff. And when I first meet a new group of people, I'll pull out a pack of cards, and you'll get this a lot, where people like, you just carry a pack of cards with you everywhere. And what I'm able to do now is just go right into, yeah, well, this one time I got kicked out of a place, and the cards helped me convince the bouncers to let me back in. So I just kind of bring it with me as a safeguard everywhere. And so you'll get that a lot. And I always wondered what to say to that. You just bring cards everywhere with you? Yeah. But now you can incorporate it into a story, go right into the story, put the cards away or whatever, don't even do a trick, and use that. So this gets back to crowd control. And the thing about it is, well, first and foremost, you always want to have the invisible deck on you at all times. Don't leave the house without it. And if you don't have it, buy it. I've had a lot of people since releasing my benefits of the invisible deck say, oh, I'm thinking about getting it, blah, blah, blah. And then I've had people say, yo, I bought this trick the day you said it, and I'm just a beginner, and I'm getting the craziest reactions I've ever gotten in my life. So if you don't have it, if you're skeptical about it, this is a must-have pack of cards. I just bought 2 new invisible decks last week. I bought a red one and a blue one. And so you gotta have that in your arsenal. Always have quick tricks that you can do. That's why I love doing 2-card money, and I love doing the invisible deck and stuff that can happen quickly, because people, if they don't have the attention span for it, you're gonna lose them. And so always be calm. And what happened was, that guy who was stone cold, I did the 2-card money, and he was just like, you know, the thing about that, and he started smiling. I saw a crack, and I was like, I see you smiling. You know that's the craziest shit you've ever seen in your life. You gotta let me back in. You've never seen anything like that before. Let me back in. And so he did. And magic is a great way to skip past all this comfort building and trust building and rapport building, whatever you want to call it, and be able to fascinate people and connect with people. And so these are must-have things, and always be calm and in control of any situation that may arise. And if you fail, it just makes for a great story. Oh, I learned a new cut, by the way. Tell me what you guys think. Boom. Oh, I'm out of clothes. What's that doing there? Beautiful thing. And then there's always